Welcome to Naturally par José, a podcast about health and well-being. I'm your host, José Fortin. In our last episode, we studied the different elements of our cardiovascular system and their dysfunctions. We also determined how to assess the risk of developing heart and circulatory problems. Now we will see how to prevent problems with the cardiovascular system by eliminating certain risk factors and adopting good lifestyle habits. If you already have issues in that area, adopting most of these good habits should help you reduce the stress on your cardiovascular system. However, it is important to consult with your doctor to make sure that you can make the desired changes without causing additional stress to your body and that there is no interaction between any supplement you are considering and the medications you are currently taking. Let's start by looking at our dietary habits. Eating a healthy diet with plenty of whole, unprocessed food is an essential foundation for health. We cannot feed our body solely with processed food lacking essential nutrients and expect to be fit and healthy. If we take into consideration that one of the risk factors that allows us to assess the health of our cardiovascular system is the concentration of cholesterol in the various lipoproteins circulating in our blood, it is particularly important to evaluate how our body regulates cholesterol levels. As we saw in the previous episode, our body produces 80% of the cholesterol in circulation, while only 20% comes from our diet. The specific concentration of cholesterol in food therefore has a minimal impact on cholesterol levels. It is the quality of the fats in our diet in general that will have an impact on the amount of cholesterol produced by the liver. Our liver is primarily responsible for managing fat metabolism in our body. If it is given a lot of good fats and not a lot of unnecessary or harmful fats, then it can better control the concentration of cholesterol and the way it is transported in the bloodstream. Saturated fats found in higher amounts in animal food as well as trans fats from processed foods have a negative effect on controlling cholesterol levels, while omegas have very beneficial effects. However, omega-3 and 6 must remain in balance to allow good control of inflammation in the body. It is very easy to have enough omega-6 in the diet because of all the oils now used in the food industry and what food we give to animals that provide us with meat. In the case of oils in our diet, it is important to make sure to consume good quality oils to reap the benefits. In that case, the key element is to choose cold press oil since that type of extraction does not expose the oils to a lot of heat and they stay in their intended form. Animals that provide us meat are nowadays mainly fed with grains, which tend to increase the concentration of omega-6, while those fed with grass have a higher concentration of omega-3 in their meat. For omega-3, you have to make a little more effort to get enough through your diet. Eating fish, seafood, and seaweed can help us get enough, but they are often accompanied by heavy metal. So we have to be careful not to overdo it with the consumption of these food elements. Flaxseed, chia seeds, walnuts, and soybeans are also good sources of omega-3. When flaxseed is added to the hen's feed, their eggs then contain small quantities of omega-3. Hemp seed, spinach, Brussels sprouts, and the purslane plant also naturally contain small amounts of omega-3. However, it is omega-9 that is the most beneficial for the health of our cardiovascular system, and the main sources of these specific omegas are cold pressed extra virgin olive oil, olives, avocado oil, avocados, sunflower oil, almonds, sesame oil, pistachios, cashews, hazelnuts, and macadamia nuts. Egg yolks contain choline and inositol, elements that help manage cholesterol since they are used to produce phospholipids, component we find in higher concentration in high density lipoproteins than in low density lipoproteins. However, they are beneficial only if you consume the egg yolks while they are still liquid, since cooking the yolk does destroy a big part of the choline and inositol. As we saw in the previous episode, cholesterol is not the only factor that can be used to assess our risk of cardiovascular problems. Our sugar consumption has a direct effect on metabolic syndrome and the health of our cardiovascular system, but also on the level of triglycerides that are part of the composition of our lipoproteins, which are responsible for transporting cholesterol. For this reason, it is very important to limit our consumption of simple sugars to very low levels and to consume carbohydrates in whole unrefined foods, and even then in limited quantities. Unrefined carbohydrates release sugar at a slower rate, which helps prevent excessive fluctuation in blood sugar levels. Protein-rich foods also help balance our blood sugar levels, and we should consume them regularly throughout the day. Smaller amounts, consumed often throughout the day, are more beneficial than a large amount once. In concrete terms, if we look at our plate, a quarter of our plate may contain unrefined carbohydrates, but they must be accompanied by the same portion of protein to achieve a balance. For all this to give good results, it is very important to have a lot of fibers in our diet. This helps in the elimination of toxins by our body, and which in turn have a very positive effect on the fluidity of our blood. Cholesterol has an antioxidant effect, and if too many toxins are in circulation, it will contribute in their neutralization, which in turn will tend to make the molecules more sticky and promote plaque formation in blood vessels. Fibers also slows down the absorption of sugars, making it easier to maintain normal blood sugar levels. They are the main source of food for our microbiome, another important factor in maintaining good health in general, but in maintaining the regularity of our intestines in particular. It is important to remember that constipation is the primary cause of venous problems, and a lack of fiber is usually a contributing factor. For these reasons, half of our diet should be made up of vegetables of different colors. For all these fibers to work well, it is very important to drink enough water, especially when constipated. Most people benefit from drinking at least 2 liters of water per day. When we adopt good habits and drink at least 2 liters of water a day, our body will let us know if it is not enough. If we do not drink enough water, we will be thirsty. However, if you do not drink enough water or very little water on a regular basis, this natural reflex is disrupted and you do not necessarily feel thirsty when your body needs more for its basic functions. At first, if you find it is difficult to drink a minimum of 2 liters of water a day, add a little bit of freshly squeezed lemon juice to your water to stimulate your thirst. Physical activity is an essential element to maintain a healthy cardiovascular system, and this for many reasons. Physical activity activates venous circulation, which has a direct impact on the amount of work done by our heart. The more you move, the more the muscles contract and push the blood toward the heart, and the less stress your heart undergoes trying to keep blood moving in your veins. Physical activity allows for much better control of blood sugar levels and is the best way to combat insulin resistance since the body uses excess sugar and helps keep normal level much more easily. Physical activity helps with stress management, which has a direct impact on our blood pressure. The more stressed we are, the more our adrenals secretes adrenaline, which in turn increases blood pressure. Physical activity has the opposite effect by helping us secrete endorphins, which helps relax us and decrease blood pressure. Physical activity also helps regulate bowel movement, which help reduce the negative impact of constipation on our circulatory system and especially our venous circulation. Physical activity has been shown to be effective in reducing levels of general inflammation in the body. This is largely because the more active we are, the fewer stagnant areas there are in our body that would be at risk of a lack of oxygen and nutrients, and by consequence, a cause of a lot of degeneration problems. This also helps to reduce stress on our circulatory system and the incidence of cardiovascular problems. It is recommended to do a minimum of 30 minutes of exercise 5 times a week. Be careful with strenuous exercise if you're not used to it. Gradually increase in intensity and consult a health professional to perform a complete assessment of your health before undertaking any major changes in your physical activities if you are not physically fit or already have problems with your cardiovascular system. Aerobic and resistance training exercise are the best activities to help with the health of your circulatory system. As seen in my episode 2, stress has a direct impact on blood pressure and the incidence of heart problems. Good stress management is therefore essential in the prevention of these problems. The episode contains many ways to reduce the impact of stress on your health, including your cardiovascular system. Quitting smoking is one of the best things you can do to improve your overall health. If looking at the cardiovascular level, smoking affects the elasticity and permeability of blood vessels, as well as the level of essential fatty acid and triglyceride in circulation. This is an important cause of the narrowing of arteries, especially those of the heart. The risk of heart disease is directly related to the number of years of smoking and the number of cigarettes smoked per day. Quitting smoking after a heart attack can cut the risk of another heart attack by half. If you smoke a pack of cigarettes a day, you are 5 times more likely to have a heart attack than a non-smoker. This is not to mention the effect you have on those around you with secondhand smoke for non-smokers. It should not be forgotten that alcohol is metabolized into sugar by the body. Regular alcohol consumption greatly affects the management of blood sugar levels and particularly insulin resistance. You do not need to consume alcohol every day, and it contains empty calories that detracts from a healthy weight. For most people, just eliminating high-calorie fluid intakes can greatly help with proper weight management and reduce insulin resistance. If you want to drink alcohol occasionally, it's best to limit it to 6 ounces of wine or beer during a meal. This is the best time to have it since it will have a lesser impact on your blood sugar level. Excess adipose tissue, fat mass, particularly in the abdomen area, is directly associated with the metabolic syndrome and is one of the factors indicating a higher risk of cardiovascular problems. Excess weight has been directly linked to a greater incidence of hypertension, damage to the heart muscles, stenosis of the aortic valve, thickening of the left side of the heart, which may indicate heart failure. A weight loss of 5 to 10% already leads to a lower risk of cardiovascular problems. The greater the weight loss, the greater the benefits. By following the other tips in this episode, you should be able to reduce this weight more easily. Today, the goal of this episode is to look at lifestyle habits that can harm the health of our cardiovascular system and how to regain balance. But we are also looking at some supplements that can help the majority of people, but over time we will be able to explore supplements with much more specific roles. We have already seen the role of omegas in our cardiovascular system and the dietary sources of these good fats. However, if you find it is difficult to have daily sources of it in your diet, it would be important to add a supplement to your daily routine. Most of the time, it is omega-3 that is more difficult to integrate in our diet, especially if we want to avoid the heavy metals present in fish, seafood, and algae. There are many different supplements, and even here, the quality can vary greatly. We have to be careful with the fish oil supplements because most undergo chemical processes to remove heavy metals, which usually leaves traces of solvents in the product and tend to oxidize the oils to various degrees, making them less beneficial and harder to digest. Another thing to keep in mind is that products from animal sources contain much more saturated fats, which is found in most of these supplements along with the omegas. By finding plant-based sources of these supplements, you can avoid heavy metal altogether, since a lot of those are cultivated in a controlled environment, and the concentration of omegas compared to the other fats is much higher. Just make sure that the supplement you are considering contains what is needed to produce EPA and DHA, the two types of omega-3 your body needs. If you ever think you are deficient in all types of omegas, there are supplements that combine omega-3, 6, and 9. Vitamin E can be an interesting supplement for heart health, and we saw this in detail in our episode 7. Here is a small review of this supplement. Most of the time, vitamin E extracted from soy is a D-alpha tocopherol supplement and is considered a natural source of vitamin E. To see if it is from a natural source, just look at the list of ingredients, and next to vitamin E, you will find the form of this vitamin in parentheses. This is where you should see the D in front of the alpha tocopherol. Nowadays, we also find natural sources of vitamin E extracted from sunflower oil. DL-alpha tocopherol, or alpha tocopherol for short, is usually a synthetic form of vitamin E derived from petroleum residues and turpentine. This has been shown to be much less effective and even seems to block the assimilation of dietary vitamin E ingested in close proximity of taking this synthetic supplement. At a maximum dose of 400 international units per day, natural vitamin E helps stabilize fat in the liver and arteries. It is particularly recommended when having problems with hemorrhoids, varicose veins, and phlebitis. Those particularly at risk of vitamin E deficiencies are those with poor liver or gallbladder functions, who have undergone bowel surgery, or who are taking laxatives. Several studies showed that bioflavonoids are beneficial for circulation by strengthening the walls of blood vessels, giving them better tone and improving blood flow. They are recommended for hemorrhoids and varicose veins. They also help reduce risk of strokes and bruising. Rutin, a type of bioflavonoid, is found in asparagus, buckwheat, and various fruits, including citrus fruits. Another type of bioflavonoid, called proanthocyanidins, can also help reduce swelling and fluid buildup in the legs. They are present in pine bark and grapeseed extracts, while a similar type of flavonoid is present in cranberries and blueberries. We must not forget that the heart is a muscle that works 24 hours a day, every day. For this reason, potassium and magnesium are two important minerals for muscle contraction. We will see their role in more details in a future episode on minerals. For now, suffice to say that a deficiency is detrimental to the proper functioning of the heart, and that when you suffer from muscle cramps anywhere else in the body, it would be important to take a supplement of these minerals to ensure adequate levels. Be careful and make sure that you can take potassium if you're taking medication, because there are some contraindications with certain medications for the heart or blood pressure and potassium. Usually the pharmacist would have warned you to be careful with your potassium intake if it was the case, but it does not hurt to check just to make sure. Some plants have a very beneficial effect on the heart and circulation. Hawthorn is a heart tonic plant that provides it with many essential elements for its proper functioning. Studies show that it acts directly on the myocardium by increasing the strength of contractions, the amount of blood ejected from the heart, and circulation in the coronary arteries. It is also said to have a regulating effect on blood pressure by acting on the permeability of calcium channels and the dilation of blood vessels if necessary. So those with hypertension see their blood pressure decrease, while those with hypotension would see it increase. Hawthorn is also thought to act on the heart rhythm by regulating the heartbeat during arrhythmia. This effect is mainly associated with a reduction in adrenergic stimulation and an effect on potassium channels by slowing down their repolarization. It has an anticoagulant effect, so be careful not to combine with anticoagulants. And finally, it helps regulate the production of cholesterol by the liver, reduce LDL and triglyceride levels, and therefore has an impact on plaque formation. Horse chestnut is another very interesting plant that helps with the venous circulation in particular. Studies show it has a beneficial effect during venous insufficiency by helping reducing the permeability of capillaries and the veins. It allows a better venous contraction, reduce the inflammation of blood vessels and particularly the veins, and finally, it helps improve blood flow in general. Here again, it is important not to combine this plant with anticoagulants. As with all herbal supplements, there is a great fluctuation in the quality of the products sold on the market. Most products made from dry plant have lost a lot of their volatile components during their drying process, which reduces the amount of elements in the final product by about 30%, as well as the concentration of active ingredients. In general, products made from the maceration of fresh plants are much more concentrated in active ingredients and cofactors that helps their action, which usually translates in much better results. We will eventually explore the world of plants, the extraction methods used as well as their mode of action in a future episode, but already this information should help you to better choose which product to use for better results. Finally, it is important to consider that the role of circulation is to bring nutrients to the cells, including oxygen from the respiratory system. In case of anemia, where the blood cannot carry oxygen as efficiently, this creates additional stress on our circulatory system and particularly on our heart. It then has to work harder to be able to nourish all the cells in our body. In our next episode, we're going to look at the role of our respiratory system as well as the cause of anemia and how to improve the situation. In conclusion, it is important to take care of our heart and circulatory system in prevention because it is a system where problems often occur without great warnings and they are often irreversible. Tissue damage can rarely be corrected. Adopting a good diet, healthy lifestyle habits, being physically active, and managing our stress well should all be things we continuously improve. Most of all, love and laughter are the best remedies. They release endorphins in our body, which help reduce our stress and improve blood circulation. Take the time every day to find something enjoyable about life. Important note, if you have any specific health conditions or take medications, it is very important to consult with your doctor or healthcare specialist to make sure that you can safely adopt these changes and that there are no harmful interaction with the medications you are currently taking. If you like the content of my podcast, please subscribe to the platform you are using. You can also turn on the notification bell to be notified when I download a new episode that takes place every second Tuesday. Thank you for listening, and I wish you a good journey toward health. Have a nice day.